I'm going to do something different today. I believe entrepreneurship is key. And I've been an entrepreneur, just a little background. I'm a retired attorney, and I left law practice to do network marketing. People often say, well, man, Laurie, why would you do that? And it's very simple. It made more money. Okay? And it enabled me to retire at 48. Wow. Which is like only a couple of weeks ago. So, entrepreneurship has been dear to me because it is a way out. You know, in the days of Mr. Fuller, Mr. Dudley, Adam Malone, I mean, all the people who made great money in the hair care industry, it was their way out. Because, you know, America's lacking right now, but in those days it was really lacking. Okay? And so entrepreneurship has always been the key. Nobody ever, if you notice this, it's a mindset. People will come 12,000 miles to open a business on the corner, and we'll spend $200,000 to go to college to get a job. Not that college is a bad thing, but it's a mindset. So many of the colleges now are actually incorporating entrepreneurship into their curriculum because jobs are different. The job market is not what it used to be. And if you're not an entrepreneur at heart, even at a job, you won't have it long. So what I did tonight, this is a handout. This is a workshop. I decided we're going to work. Hey. So here, give some over here. Give some over here. And I'm using a technique, I like to call it super learning. And super learning means that you get more of the senses involved with the process. If you just sit there and take notes, you know, that's a good thing. Most people just sit there and listen and go, mm-hmm, yeah, hey, amen. Okay? And then you say, what'd you learn? Nothing. And so this is a worksheet. I hope you have a pen. If you don't have a pen, number one lesson of the entrepreneur is always have a pen. Suppose somebody wants you to sign a check. Okay, like, here's a check for $1 million. All you got to do is sign here. Can I borrow your pen? So lesson number one. We also like to do a couple of things. I like to call it call and response. Because I like to tie down the information. Everybody have enough? I think we got some more over here. Good. And call and response, because what that does is it gives you a chance to tie down the information so that you got it. So call and response. Example, if I say, how do you feel? You say, great. Let's try that. How do you feel?
Great.
Yeah, I'm good. You know, most people, how do you feel? Oh, I feel great. Yeah, great. Okay. How about rich? How do you feel?
Rich.
Now you got to wiggle. You can't be rich and like this thing. I'm rich. You got to be rich. So let's try that again. How do you feel? Rich. Excellent. Y'all pretty smart. Let me put my watch down, because see, I've been known to carry on so long that people go home and come back. They bring lunch. So, also affirmations. You know, an affirmation is a means to tie down your information. So, it also is a way to create a state of mind. We're going to talk about the laws of success, and so the affirmation, the law of affirmation is one of those statements. And I knew Rose Morgan. Rose Morgan was actually married to Willie Mays, the great basketball player. And that place that she had on 125th Street, there were 300 or 400 people there in the morning doing affirmations.
A baseball player.
Baseball, Willie Mays, everybody. Willie Mays, baseball player. So affirmations, a statement of truth about yourself. So if you say, I feel great today, that programs you to do what? Feel great. So, I feel great today. Let's say that together. I feel great today. All right. I love Rich.
I love Rich.
So let's... that's a great affirmation. I love Rich. Let's try that together. I love Rich. Woo! That makes you feel really good. So, the 12 universal laws of success, what we're going to do today, the third part is the worksheet. So you hear it, You say it, and you write it. I've made a worksheet because when you take it, when you leave here, you have a record now. You can buy the book. That helps. Okay? And you can use this worksheet as a model for how to transform your life. So the 12 Universal Laws of Success is written primarily to teach people how to change their lives, how to transform their lives from what it is to what they want it to be. But the same thing works in business. Same principles. How do you apply these principles to being in business? So we're going to go through this quickly. The first law of success, and put your name and date on the paper, so if you lose it, somebody will know it was yours. Because believe me, people will steal them. They'll see people like, I don't know what it is, but I'm stealing this. Okay? So, the first law of success is the law of thought. The law of thought. That scripture you had, as a man thinketh in his heart. And I like to say this, as a mind. You know, because the books are so masculinity. Is that such a word?
Sure.
You know, but they eliminate that. You know, like if you read some of the women never get the good affirmations. So as a mind thinketh, be it a man or a woman, as a mind thinketh in its heart, so is it. As a mind thinketh. So whatever you think, there's a rational part to the thought, and then there's the feeling part to the thought, the emotion. So if you're thinking rich and feeling poor, you get poor. My good friend Reverend Ike, I worked with Reverend Ike for 2 years as head of the Science of Living Institute. And one of his great thoughts was, feeling gets the blessing. Blessing is manifestation. So the first law of success is the law of thought. Write it down. And a statement of it says, I become what I think about most of the time. Let's say that together. I become what I think about most of the time. And so if you're going into business, you have to change that mindset from the employee mindset to the employer mindset. When you're an entrepreneur, you got to be the employee and the employer. A lot of people go in business, they say, the first thing I'm going to do is give myself a day off. Okay? You know, if you think about it, a lot of us are such poor employees that you would never work for yourself. So when you're becoming an entrepreneur, you want to have the mindset of an employee. In other words, the work has to get done. The daily work pattern has you guys have names on your shirt, so you all must do something together, right? So in the day, stuff's got to get done. So if you're the owner of the company, that's fine. Still, stuff's got to get done. So when you're the entrepreneur, many times you got to do the work in the daytime and that planning at night. And so that's a different mindset now. You can't think on the employee, you know, trading hours for dollars. Because when you're an entrepreneur, there ain't no such thing as an 8-hour day. And you're mad that there are only 24 hours in the day. Wish you got work longer. Wonder why the Lord only created 24 hours, all the stuff I got to do. You look at people like, for example, a fellow that did Playboy magazine, Hugh Hefner. When he started out, he had a mindset. He wanted to be an entrepreneur. He wanted to publish a magazine. Had two problems. Didn't have any money and didn't have any money. So what did he do? He said, no, the thought was, I want to publish a magazine. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. So what am I going to do? I'm going to open an office. Okay? Now he had to choose between a house and an office. He said, well, guess what? I can live in the office. So he opened an office. He lived in the office. He wrote all the stories, put different names on them. He got himself a little cheap camera, and all you got to do is get some pretty women, and people come around, took pictures. He had to eat. So he said, look, I publish a magazine. You want me to say something good about your restaurant? Then let us eat for free. So he had the free office, he ate free, and he hung around with pretty women. All right? But it was all in his mindset. There were so many ways he could have looked around and said, I can't do this. I don't have what it takes. As you were saying earlier, you always have what it takes. So that's it. First law of success, I become what I think about most of the time. Let's say that together. I become what I think about most of the time. The second law of success is the law of change. You see, the moment you become an entrepreneur, you have to change your thinking. The Bible says, be not conformed to this world, but be you transformed, be you changed by the renewing of your mind. So now that you become an entrepreneur, you got to think new thoughts. You got to think thoughts of how, some people look at a situation and they go, how much does it cost? An entrepreneur, you need to look at it and say, well, how much can I make?
That's right.
When we were talking about the $500 to get started, like if you got I was just thinking, man, times have changed, $250. Everybody, most of y'all got that in your pocket. Okay? But $500 is a lot of money then. And so think about that. And I said, most people would say, and I guess that's what his mother was saying, look, you got a good job, you're getting paid every week, you're going to risk this money? Yes! That's what being an entrepreneur is about. To take the risk and to go ahead. And so to change your thinking from thinking of fear, of loss, to possibility of gain. How much can I make if I can invest this $500 and it grew into a multi-million-dollar corporation? Mr. Fuller, how can I invest $25 and it grows into a company that has 5,000 employees? So, be able to change your thinking from the employee, from the job mindset, to the owner mindset. And you don't evaluate your time now based on the hours you spend, but now you want to base your results on what you do. See, a lot of people, I hate when the young people say, I'm chilling. I'm trying to like, what does that mean? What do you do when you're chilling? I found out. Nothing. But everybody said it like it was a good thing. Man, I'm chilling. What you doing? I'm chilling. Everybody's chilling. What are you doing? Nothing. So we have to change that mindset now that every hour of every day is an opportunity to do something. To make some money. The affirmation that goes that I change my life by changing my thinking. I change my life by changing my thinking. Now let's affirm that together. I change my life by changing my thinking. So now you got the thought going, you can change your life through your thinking. The third law of success is the law of vision. Woo, Lord. The Bible says what? Where there is no vision, what happens? People perish. Where you have no vision, you go broke. When you're an entrepreneur, if you have no vision, guarantee you will go broke. The law of vision is so powerful because every time you go into a business, how many of you have ever been in network marketing? Amway, this way, that way, some other way, right? Okay? And they always ask you, what's your why? Don't they?
That's right.
What's your why?
Yes.
Most people go, why? Wow, I'm broke, that's why. That's why I'm doing this. But it's got to be the affirmative why. Your why is your vision for yourself. What do you see yourself being? What do you see yourself doing? What do you see yourself having? If you're not clear on that, it ain't going to happen. The Habakkuk says, write the vision. That's why I have you writing. Habakkuk didn't say text the vision. Doesn't say tell somebody the vision. It says write the vision, make it plain. And so the law of vision says, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you need to write that vision down. Why am I doing this thing? Why am I going to endure the hardships? Like it's scary not to have a job. When Friday comes and you say, well, where's my check? You got to go look in the mirror. Where's my check? But that's what being an entrepreneur is. When Friday comes, you got to look at yourself and say, where's my check? And if you keep saying, I don't know, you're not going to be an entrepreneur for too long. I guess the good thing about a job, they always say, well, when you fail, you can always get a job. Isn't that interesting to equate a job with failure? When you fail as an entrepreneur, you can go back to work. See, now in the old days, you couldn't even get a job. Many black folks were entrepreneurs out of desperation. Couldn't get a job. I have a friend, a fellow named, better not say his name, got to protect the guilty. But he went to Yale University. A black man got a degree from Yale. And he came out and he thought he was going to get a job downtown. They're like, yeah, man, we got a job. You can be a janitor. You can be the head janitor because you got a degree. Yeah. He ended up becoming a gangster. He's one of those people in that American Gangster picture they didn't talk about in that much, but he's back in. But anyway, he put his education into practice as a numbers banker, as a saloon owner. In other words, we had to be entrepreneurs because you couldn't get a job. And so today, there's a reason why entrepreneurs win. Because you set the wages. See, when you work on a job, they're only going to pay you what you're worth to them. And if you forget that, you walk in one day and say, I think I deserve a raise. They say, well, you got one. Raising up out of here. Okay? And so being an entrepreneur means you set your wages. You tell them what you're going to make because you decide how to do it. So that idea, that law of vision, that goes to so many things. You got to have your goals. In the book, we talk about how your goals have to be smart. They got to be specific. They got to be measurable. They got to be set in advance. So you can't, well, I made $100. I guess that's what I was shooting for. No. You got to be set in advance. It's got to be realistic based on where you are right now. Not that nothing is impossible. You know, when Christ said, hey, if you tell that mountain to be cast into the sea and doubt not, you better get your bathing suit. Because it's going into the sea. So it's realistic based on where you are right now. And then it's got to cover a certain time period. So as an entrepreneur, you need to set your goals. They need to be specific. They need to be measurable. They need to be set in advance. They need to be realistic based on where you are right now. One of the things that really messes you up is when you have unrealistic expectations. I'm going to get in this business, and I think I'm going to be a millionaire by, oh, there's my watch. Sorry. By 5 o'clock. At least by Sunday. When you have unrealistic expectations in your business, it messes you up. You start failing, and you quit. So the affirmation there goes, what I see clearly in my thoughts, I experience in my life. What I see clearly in my thoughts, I experience in my life. Let's say that together. What I see clearly in my thoughts, I experience in my life. Now, once you get that vision going, the fourth law of success is the law of command. The law of command. The law of command says what you say is what you get. That's number 8. What I say is what I get. So as Mr. Fuller was saying, you can do anything. Mr. Dudley says the same thing. Nothing is impossible. I remember he said one day, he said, well, when I was a little boy, Mama said, well, Joe is slow. He said, yeah, but when a slow boy gets it, he got it. So the law of command says now you got to say what you want. So say I am rich. Say I am wealthy. Say I feel great today. Say I am successful in my business. Say my business is growing and growing. Let's say that together. My business is growing and growing. One more time. My business is growing. See, and your business is growing. It ain't nothing like going to the bank. Good God, I love it. When you go and put checks in, stack them too, boy. Yeah, have a whole envelope full of checks. You notice when the bank, when you get to a certain level, they give you one of those little pouches with the bank's name on it. If you don't have a pouch, you ain't there yet. You see the people at the bank, they come and they got the envelope, BB&T. Like, how do you get one of them? You gotta have some money.
True story.
So this law of command, you begin to speak into the world what you want. You begin to not just to see it through the law of vision, but you begin to say it. And see, what you see and what you say is what you get. So what I say is what I get. Let's say that together. What I say is what I get. The fifth law of success. A lot of people call it the law of attraction. Law of human magnetism. You see, we are vibrations. My major in college was physics. I studied with a couple of Nobel Prize winners. I learned something. I loved the subject, physics. I just didn't want to be a physicist. If I could have stayed a student forever, I'd probably still be there. But sooner or later, you got to get a job, and that's what I didn't like. Okay? And I couldn't figure out entrepreneurship in that area. You ever seen an entrepreneurial physicist? So, the fifth law of success, the law of attraction. And it says, like attracts like. Let's say that together. Like attracts like. Brother, let me give you a worksheet. See, I got a worksheet. Here we go. There you go. Okay. Like attracts like. Now, E equals MC squared.
Yes.
That's Einstein.
Yes.
Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Conversely, mass equals energy divided by the speed of light squared. What that is saying is that mass is manifestation. That's really what it is. When you have manifestation, you have mass. And so therefore, whenever you want to manifest something in your life, in your business, you have to emit a certain vibration to make it happen. And so that's why the law of attraction works, because you attract into that space things that are congruent with your vibration. And so if you're not being successful in your business, you might be emitting a vibration of poverty. I was speaking one time, a guy got up before me and he kept talking about six-figure income, six-figure income. Lady looked at his shoes. And they were run over. They were unshined. And she said, you know what? If he makes a six-figure income, they're all zeros. And so in your business now, you have to develop such belief in it. You have to have such faith in your ability to make it happen that you vibrate it. You know how when you start a new relationship with a person, a lot of businesses, boy meets girl. If you're ever confused about what to do, think about meeting a young man and meeting a young woman. Because it all kind of works like that. When you just meet, and boy, you're excited and you can't think about it, and that's when you attract the person, don't you? They're excited about me. Well, same thing in business. When you're excited about whatever, man, I got this hair product, it will make your hair straight and it won't burn you to death. That's the Johnson proposition. And I remember those days, boy, when you go in the Malcolm X days, when you go conquer lean. That was conquer lean. Anything named that, that's scary right there. Then they had one called lay 'em straight. Remember lay 'em straight? You put that that stuff on your hair slick down and don't ever move. Your biggest power is keep your hair from sliding off the pillow. Lay them straight. It lays your hair out. When they put that stuff in your hair went whoop. So, this law of magnetic attraction is so powerful. And the science is you use your affirmations to get yourself pumped up. So that you then vibrate at a higher level. So now you attract into your space that which you need. You walk like money. You talk like money. You know, you walk in the room, boy, and everybody looks at you and they go like, who's that? Friends say, if you don't know who it is, you ain't in it. You're supposed to know. When you walk in, like if they don't know who you are, they're on the porch. You see what I'm saying? So in your business, you got to carry yourself in that way. This is what I call my official uniform. I'm suited and booted. That's what I teach. When you come out suited and booted. Because how you look makes people treat you differently. Because you're sending out a different vibration. The sixth law of success. We getting to it now. Is the law of focus. The affirmation says, keep your eye on the prize. Let's say that together. Keep your eye on the prize. You see, whatever you focus on grows. And so once you have your vision of your goals clearly written on paper, once you're emitting that vibration of what it is that you want to be, do, and have, now you focus on that. And when you focus on it, you create a harmonic relationship between you and what you want. And see, that's why when you really want something badly, you go home and you think about it all the time. You talk about it. You've met people who are on the path to success. Sometimes they almost seem like they're obsessed with it. Well, you gotta be. Can you imagine being in a relationship with a fine young person, lady, whatever, and you like, well, I like her. You ain't getting nothing but information from her, brother. Okay? You got to radiate. And you got to focus. See, whatever you focus on grows.
Yes.
And so if you write that picture of the Rolls Royce there and you focus on that thing, you're going to get it. I remember Mr. Dudley. I met Mr. Dudley. I was working for Reverend Ike, and Mr. Dudley was going to buy his first Rolls Royce. He bought one for him and his wife. And he said, before you buy a Rolls Royce, go see somebody who got one. Okay? And so you focus on that you want. That law of focus says, hey, whatever you focus on, I'll give you a nice example. You know, in the daytime, the sun is out. But if you take that same sunlight and you focus it through a magnifying glass, it burns. You can set stuff on fire. Your focus has to be just like that. So that you set yourself on fire. Like, woo!
Yes.
And then anybody who sees you can feel that fire. And they'll be attracted to do whatever you need them to do. The seventh law of success. This might be called the bad luck law. The bad news law. It's the law of action. And it says, how to do what must be done efficiently and effectively. How to do what must be done efficiently and effectively. So the law of action says basically all this other stuff, you can write the goals. You can make them plain. You can do affirmations from sun up to sun up. You can be radiating and vibrating. But if you don't take a step, it doesn't mean nothing. And so the law of action says not only must you take a step, you must know what the next step is. So you got to have a plan. And not only must you have a plan now, you must understand how stuff works. You got to have a DMO. Daily method of operation. People say, how'd you retire at 48? I had a daily method of operation. I went to a guy once who he got a check, his monthly check was $600,000. I was like, man, if you made that 1 month, what about next month? I'm done at $600,000. I'm finished. I said, how do you make that kind of money, man? What do you do? He says, I make 150 calls a day. Then he looked at me, he said, how many are you making a day? I was so embarrassed, I lied. When you're not doing it, you're going to lie. And worst of all, you lie to yourself. That's right, Troy, this is a heavy one here. See, because the law of action says you're going to get results.
Yes.
You're always going to get results. They're either going to be the ones you want or the ones you don't want. And you lie to yourself to keep going. And I'm going to keep doing this. I know I'm working at it. Tomorrow, when my ship comes in, my daddy used to say, that was my man. Daddy, I was selling everything. I was selling automatic needle threaders to all the old people who couldn't see. I was selling lifetime guarantee sponges. I always wanted to be rich. I know you got to sell something to be rich. Trust me. One realization about business: if you're not selling something, you're never going to make any money. You got to be selling ideas. You got to be selling products. You got to be selling something. A lot of times now they sell the experience. People pay $15,000 to go down for the VIP experience. You can walk on my water for nothing. But you got to be selling something. And so this whole idea of taking action means you got to recognize it. You got to have a plan. You got to tie that plan in with your goals. You got to set goals for a whole year, for 2 years, for 5 years. Most companies plan 5 and 10 years down the line. They're billion-dollar companies. If it's working for them, duh. Shouldn't you have a plan that goes further than next Tuesday? People, I just plan to get through the day. That's it. So you got to have a plan, a long-term plan, immediate, intermediate, long-term plan, because once you get a long-term plan and you begin to align with the goals that you set in that long-term plan, you create that harmonic. Vibrations increase and stuff starts going your way. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Hasn't that happened to you when you really got on it and were doing it right and the thing? People say it's a miracle. It's not a miracle. It's science. It's the law of success. Number 8, the law of value. The law of value. In the Bible it says, don't give your pearls to the swine, because they'll eat them and then turn around and eat you. So the idea is that the law of value says that you have to invest your time. The law of value. Number 8, invest your time, your thoughts, your actions, and substance. Be it money, be it shekels, whatever you change value in. Invest your time, your thoughts, your actions, and your substance. You see, the law of value means now you got to make choices. And this is why most people fail. They don't make good choices. The law of value says now you got to set priorities for your business. You can't hang out every night. You can't keep an 8-hour day. If to get what you want, you got to work 20 hours a day, that's what you got to do. Now you can adjust your goals, say, well, look, I got kids, I got family, I can't work 20 hours a day. Well, then you're not going to make this amount in that amount of time. See, when you look at the law of value, you got to start looking at things like DMO, your daily method of operation. In business, if you don't have a daily method of operation, you're not going to make any money. If you do it when you feel... See, you can do a business full-time. You can even do a business part-time. But you can't do a business sometime. Everybody got that? You can't do a business sometime. Let's say that together. You can't do a business sometime. So that law of value says now you got to have a daily method of operation and you got to be focused on what's important. I call them IPAs. Income Producing Activities. IPA. Income Producing Activities. If you are not engaging in income-producing activities and you claim to be an entrepreneur, you're lying to yourself. Because in being an entrepreneur means you're supposed to make money. You know, one thing I want to clear up, a lot of people say, well, I want to set up a nonprofit organization. That is not being an entrepreneur. So what do you get when you set up a nonprofit? You got a job. If you're the director, they tell you how much you're going to make. And don't try to buy something else, because you go straight to jail. So if you're an entrepreneur, my company is called the Life Skill Institute. Somebody say, is it a nonprofit? I'm like, not intentionally. If I don't make any money, it wasn't because I wasn't trying. All right? So just remember that in business, DMO, daily method of operation, IPA is income producing activities. I'll say it and then you repeat after me. Invest my time, thoughts, actions, and substance wisely and effectively. Together. Invest my time, thoughts, actions, and substance wisely and effectively. The ninth law of success is the law of relationships. You know, you can't get rich by yourself. It's hard to even go broke by yourself, frankly. But the law of relationships, and see, relationships are powerful. One of my good friends, he said, let the relationships do the heavy lifting. See, because relationships can do things. The law of mind says that when two or more gather on one accord, I am. I am is the making power, the ability to get things done. When two or more gather on one accord, I am among them. So that means you got greater power. So relationship can give you, where 1 + 1 is more than 2. And so that's why Mr. Fuller understood relationships. Because he could multiply and magnify through other people. See, one of the ideas of being an entrepreneur is that you use other people's time, energy, money, substance. You get investors, you get people working with you. And so this idea of relationships is critical. You got to be clear on your relationship with your source. I'm not saying, you know, whatever name your God goes by, you got to realize it helps. Let's just say this. I'm sure there are atheists and people who disagree. But I know for me that I got to be clear about my source. By whatever name. That there's a power out there greater than I am, and that from that power I can connect and be more powerful than I am by myself. I never heard an atheist. I never seen one die, but I guess I don't know what they do. I know when my folk die, they go, oh Lord, somebody, call my mama, somebody. Okay? So you got to have that relationship with your source. You got to have a relationship with yourself. See, as an entrepreneur, one of the things you have to recognize is that rejection is part of the deal. And so if you're not clear on yourself and happy with who you are, then when people tell you no, you're crushed. 3 no's and I'm out of here. Back to the... I have a friend that used to dance in the club and everything went wrong. She said, oh, back to the pole. The guy said, we don't have to pray for you, Doc. But it's wherever you're comfortable. Some people it's back to the porch. Some people it's back to the job. You know, when you told that old man when you got into your business, you told the boss to shove it, and it didn't work. You come back with a flashlight and a ladder. You said, boss, can I climb up there and find that job? Okay? You get me? And so rejection is part of the deal. And so you prepare yourself for rejection by believing in yourself. See, you ain't rejecting me, you're rejecting the product. You're rejecting the service I'm offering. You're the nut. This product will give you eternal life. If you don't want it, good for you. Stay sick. The law of relationships is your power to be liked. Let's say that together. My power to be liked. Together. My power to be liked. The 10th law of supply, the 10th law of success is the law of supply. That once you become an entrepreneur, you have to know that there's always enough of whatever you need. You can't go into entrepreneurship thinking about lack, thinking about limitation, thinking about what you don't have. The law of supply says there is always enough of just what you need. Let's say that together. There is always enough of just what you need. Let's put it in the personal. I need. There is always enough of just what I need. And see, the law of supply is good because sometimes when you feel like it's not working, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So when you don't see by any material manifestation of what you're working for, the law of supply says it's there. Just hang tough and keep rolling. She said, I believe. Yes, yes. The 11th law of success is the law of persistence. You know, the only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. Persistence is the thing that transforms all things. When you can say yes longer than they can say no, you win. Sometimes you win by being the best. Sometimes you win by just refusing to lose. Remember the Rumble in the Jungle? With Ali? Is it Frazier? And man, for 7 rounds, I was watching that. You know, in those days, you didn't have the home. You just had to go to the movie theater. And you paid like $30 or $40 and you're all dressed up. And man, Ali's getting beat to death. I mean, I'm feeling terrible, like, oh my goodness. And that was the old rope-a-dope. He let Frazier, what's his name? Foreman. He let Foreman punch himself out. Ali won, not because he was the better fighter that day. He won because he refused to lose. So persistence can give you that power to hang in there. And see, when you have persistence and faith, that's unstoppable. See, persistence without faith is just exercise. But when you have persistence and faith, you're unstoppable. So when Mr. Johnson needed $500, he said, well, look, one guy said no. I'm going to go to another one. And I'm sure many times in your lives, things have happened that you didn't want to happen. You lost. You were second. You were third. But if you just hang in there, you'll get it done. A winner never quits, and a quitter never wins. Let's say that together. A winner never quits, and a quitter never wins. And finally, the 12th law of success is the law of truth. The law of truth. And it says, know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Let's say that together. Know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Let's put it in the personal. Know the truth, and the truth. So what is this? That the first law of success is thought, that you got to think it. And if you can think it, you can be it. If you can think it, you can see it. The truth is that you have the ability to change your life from whatever it is to whatever you want it to be. That nothing is impossible. The truth is that if you have a vision and write that vision and believe in that vision, it will manifest. The truth is that you have to say what you want. The truth is that if you say negative things, you get negative results. The truth is if you down yourself and say, I can't, I don't, then you get negative results. The truth is that you attract what you are. If you're not experiencing in your life that which you want, then you're sending out some bad vibes. You need to do a self-diagnostic. You need to get in a group like this where other people tell you, you know, you can do that. You listen to somebody else tell about how they walked on the water. You say, well, if she can walk on the water, I can walk on the water. The truth is that you got to be focused. That you can't permit interruptions. that you can't permit distractions, that you can't permit anything that takes your eye off the prize. That's the truth. The truth is that you have to take action. That without action, it's just a theory. The truth is that you can't sit there chilling on the sideline and expect anything other than ice. You always get what you send out. The truth is that you are a valuable person. The truth is that you should never let anybody devalue you or undervalue you. That if people say that you can't, I recommend you get away from them. But a lot of times it's your family, and you can't divorce your family. But you may have to learn how to say, that's not for me. And just shut them out. Shut them out with a smile. You ever notice when you may not agree, but you're like, yeah. You must be crazy. The truth is that the relationships that you make will really predict the success that you have. Someone said your level of success is the average of the 5 people closest to you. That's true. If you're surrounded with turkeys, don't expect to fly. That's a heavy affirmation. See, that's why I say when I do these, I didn't say that, y'all said it. We did this together. The truth is that there's always enough of whatever you need. That you never have to worry about lack. You never have to worry about it running out. That the universe is abundant. That God is infinite. That whatever you need is always there. You just have to be able to see it. Sometimes your glasses are cloudy with doubt and past failures. Sometimes your hearing is stopped up by negativity from my childhood. My mother used to say I didn't have sense enough to pull pee out of a boot. It messed me up. I interpret that as I had no common sense. I always did stupid stuff. I'd mail a letter and forget to put the stamp on it. Till one day I realized I ain't gonna pee in the boot in the first place. The truth is that if you hang in there, if you are committed to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes in your business, you will win. You will succeed. You will be victorious. Let us stand. We're going to close out. Did y'all have a good time?
Yes.
Woo, me too. We did good today, folks. See, if y'all had fallen asleep, I'd say, yeah, it's their fault. We're going to close with an affirmation. I'll repeat it. I'll say it, and then you repeat it together. This time it's me in the winner's circle.
This time it's me in the winner's circle.
This time it's me who gets the prize.
This time it's me who gets the prize.
This time I've really made it.
This time I've really made it.
This time my dream is realized.
This time my dream is realized.
Whose dream?
My dream.
Give yourselves a hand.